Welcome back to you guys in this new section where we will be starting web scraping. Now, web scraping is a very interesting topic because using those techniques, we can go to any website and we can harvest information. For example, let me give you the small project that we will be implementing throughout learning about web scraping. We have this random website that collects information and reviews about restaurants and hotels and etc. So what I would like to do is, I would like maybe to log into this website and harvest all the reviews that are there. This can be especially useful when you are trying to compare, let's say, multiple hotels at the same time to decide which one is the best. Maybe by harvesting all the reviews, maybe by harvesting the prices, you can harvest a lot of information. Now, the project that we will be implementing here while we are learning, so that learning those concepts will not go boring, is that we have this village walking and food tasting tour or whatever. They are arranging some tour and they are reviewing it. So what I would like to do is I would like to collect all of those reviews from this, and I will have my script store it so that maybe I can review it, maybe I can apply some data analysis over it. Well, we can do whatever we want with it. But the point is, we learn the techniques that are used in order to extract those information. Now, we are going to use a library that is called Beautiful Soup. Now, Beautiful Soup is really great if you would like to extract information from website elements. So, if I am to click on Inspect right now, we have all the information for every single element of our web page. Let's say for this button, if we click on it, it will be highlighting the code for it. If we highlight, let's say maybe this image here, it will tell us that this is the code for this image, and we are going to use those highlighting in order to be able to interact with those using Selenium. So what we are going to use is two libraries here. First one is Beautiful Soup, as I said, which will be extracting the information from all of those web elements. Like, again, for example, if I go to this review right here, it's nothing but a division. A division is actually an HTML element. If I click on it, it is just right here, and the review text is somewhere embedded in those lines. Beautiful Soup is really good in getting those elements and extracting, let's say, text or images from them. This is the first portion of the project that we will be implementing. The second portion will be about interacting with those. Now, interaction is going to be something like clicking on the next review page button, right? So if I click here, I will be getting different reviews. If I click again on the third page, I will be getting different reviews. So to interact with those elements, we will be using Selenium. To extract the information after interaction, we are going to be using Beautiful Soup. Those two libraries usually comes hand in hand in doing web scraping. So we will try to learn as much as possible web scraping using those two libraries. So let us get started. Now, before I progress any further and we go into the technicals, I would like to give you a larger picture of what's going on. We have a website, and this website contains elements. And those elements are called image, for example, div, button. We have select boxes. Now, this is what we have. My goal is, as a web scrapper, is to go to this website. We go here. This is the first step. This is one. Now, after I go here, I will be getting an HTML page, which need to be parsed. And parsed meaning that just making sense of this HTML page. This is step 2. Now, step 3 is to actually find the required elements. Okay, let's say that the web page looks something like this. And I have reviews, as I said. Let's say this is a box for review 1. This is a box for a second review. This is a box for a third review. This is R1, R2, and R3. I would like to get the text out of it. What I have right now is just an HTML parsed. Now, what is this? This is maybe called div. All right. So maybe every box here is put inside the div element. And div, as I said, those are just HTML elements. So this is a div. This is also a div. And this is also a div. Okay, My goal is to go to that website and inspect those elements to see where are the reviews. Web scraping is not the same for all websites. You need to analyze and see what you need from there, then you can translate them into a script that will extract them. So, after I have navigated to the website, got the HTML parsed, analyzed where are my divs. Let's say I would like to get all the divs for all the reviews. Now, here it will lead us to class name. Every element, not every element, but most elements will have something called a class. Class is not an object-oriented term here in HTML. It's just a name. Okay? So let's say here we have boxes of reviews, and let's say here we have those images of the stars. Right? You remember, reviews are just stars like that. So those are the images. Maybe they are also put in div, but let's say maybe this div is called review div. Okay, and this div is called star. Okay, when I say div is called that, it means its class name is called that. Okay, so here this section, this portion is actually class name called review, and this portion is a div with a class name which is called star. This is why we use classes, in order to differentiate different divs from each other. And you can see class name for buttons, for select boxes, for images, for everything. So right now I would like to extract the text from every review, right? This is my goal. How would I do that? I go to the element, I expect the div, and I take its class name, for example. Okay? And I note it down. 3. Note down your elements. And then we will be using Beautiful Soup that is going to extract those from their elements. Meaning that I would give the class name to Beautiful Soup. Remember, Beautiful Soup already has this HTML parsed. Now I will give a class name. It will go to the HTML parsed text and it will extract that class name. For example, here I will tell it extract me all the text from the division that is called review, and it will get me all the text. Now this is in its simplest form. Sometimes I would face something called hierarchy. Okay, so I have a div that is inside another div, and maybe even inside another div. Okay, in those cases, if you tell Beautiful Soup, find me this div that is embedded here, it might say I did not find it. So what you need to do is to take it step by step into that div. So first you tell it search in the first div, then after it searches in it, it returns this div. You tell it also keep searching inside this div until you reach your destination div. But how would you know that? How would you know how deep to go? This is also part of your inspection. So you go to the inspect in Google Chrome or Firefox or whatever, and you try to see your review, let's say box. If you give it to Beautiful Soup and it tells you, hey, I did not find it, maybe because it's embedded in a different hierarchy. So while you are inspecting in the code is like this, right? This is the code you would see in inspection. And this is maybe my review section. All we need to do is just go up a little bit to the div that is containing it. Okay, so this is the div that is containing it. And you try to give this to Beautiful Soup. If you find it, that's good. If not, then maybe you need to go higher in the hierarchy. So this summarizes what you need to know for now. Now, as I said, these divisions could be images, could be buttons, could be anything. Let's get our hands a little bit dirty. So, as usual, we are going to see how we can download the necessary libraries. We have Anaconda prompt open. Now we will say pip install bs4. This is for Beautiful Soup. I have already installed that, so it will say requirement already satisfied and it won't install anything. But for you should be seeing the installment already displayed on the CMD. Okay, let's start by importing. So we're going to say from PS4 import Beautiful Soup. Now, as you can see, if you execute the cell, you'll see that it is working. The first thing we want to do is to get the HTML content of a page. Okay, this is the first thing we will be learning. So again, let's say that we want this page. You can apply it on any page you want. So if I just copy the link and just add a variable here called URL. Okay, now Beautiful Soup is not actually going to send a request to this website in order to retrieve the HTML. Beautiful Soup only parse this HTML. Now, what do I mean by parsing? Parsing is decomposing the HTML into its elements. What do I mean by that? As you can see here, we have tons of elements. Now, if you request this page and retrieve it, you will be getting all of those information, but you need a way to extract certain elements. Let's say that I would like to extract this button. How would I do that? I mean, yes, I have requested all of this page. I have it written in a variable, maybe in a list, all of that text, but how would I make sense of it? To make sense of it, we use a parser. And this is what the parser will do. You can apply certain methods on it in order to extract maybe the buttons, the divisions, the images, whatever you want. And this is the role of Beautiful Soup. Okay, so we've talked about what is parsing, but how can we get the page itself? We will be using a library that is called requests. I'm going to say import requests. Now, I'm not sure if this is a native library or not, so let us install it anyway. So I'm going to say here pip install requests. Okay. Okay, now we have those two libraries. How can we get that HTML page? Well, we are going to use the request. I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it response, and it's going to be requests dot get dot, not dot really, just URL. Okay, now let me execute the first cell and the second cell. And here we go. And right now we have all the content in that response. How about we parse it, as I said? So to parse this, we need to, let's create a variable here called soup. And I'm going to say beautiful soup. Let's say response dot text. Then here HTML dot parser. Now Beautiful Soup can parse multiple formats, but what we want is the HTML parser, right? So we would like to parse it by getting this response that we have already called and stored the result in, and just calling text here so that we can extract this text. Now let's print this soup, okay? And here we go. We got the HTML page. Now this one is nothing but this one. It's the same thing. We have extracted all of those information now into our Python script. Now we are ready to dig into here in order to extract more information, more meaningful information. See, this is the basis of web scraping. We just send a request in order to get a certain HTML page or a website, and then after we get the result, we start digging to extract more information. Alright, so let me go back here. So if I just click on inspect, you'll see those are my elements. If I click on select an element here, go to reviews, as you can see, every review is in a div, right? Take a look at the bubble box here. It's called div. Second one, also div. Third one, also div. And if you notice, if I am to go to the text only, it's a div inside a div. This is what I mean when I tell you there is a hierarchy. When I go, let's say here, to the summarization of the review, which what we are going to be collecting, you'll see that it's also a div inside the div. This is a subdiv, and the bigger div is in here, okay? We can click on each of them and actually see. This is the div for the large box. If I expand it, and I go, let's say, expand it here, this is the text. It is stored in something called the span, okay? Now, if you notice as well, if I am to click here again, the whole review section is in a large giant box. If I put it here we go. See, this division, which is called reviews underscore underscore 1BOD, is actually a giant division that contains the whole section for the reviews. Okay, so as I said, you need to go to the website and you try to inspect elements. You'll get a lot of errors when you are trying to deal with the Beautiful Soup, telling you that this element does not exist. You need to iterate here, see if it is a sub-element from something else, like a division. And you keep doing that until you have collected the correct hierarchy that will allow your script to harvest information. Let us implement extracting those reviews. Here is my script, and we have already parsed it. Let's say that I would like to get this review. You will notice that all the reviews have the same class name, We have already talked about this. I told you that usually similar elements will be within the same class name. So as you can see, every review have a class name of 27TN. So let's try to extract all of those 27TN's reviews, all right? Maybe this will give us all the reviews that are on this page. So I'm going to be copying the class name here because I'm going to be using it in Beautiful Soup. I'm going to say here content is equal to soup dot find. What I would like to find, I would like to find a division. Then I would like to tell it that this division has a class name. You just say class underscore equals to review 27TN, right? Because this is a division and it's called review 27TN. I would like to find this division in my HTML retrieved text. Let's see if we will be getting anything. If I execute it, we found it. Now let's try to iterate over those. I'm going to say for text and content. And I'm going to say here print text. Okay? Let's see if we will be getting anything at all. We actually got information. As you can see now, if you take a closer look, you'll see that there is some reviews here, but we need a way to extract them. Let's go and grab more information. Where is the text located exactly? Well, if I am to expand this and then, I don't know, maybe expand this, and here we go. Take a look here. There is a span that is containing the summary of the review. If I try to expand those, this is the date. Expand those, this is the review itself. Well, but as you can see, the review summary and the review are stored in a span. Span is similar to div, but we use it in order to subdivide sometimes inside a div when we have text. So initially, since we are not taking an HTML class right now, you can think about div as similar to span, okay? And we use it to style the text, to do some things to it, stuff like this. Okay, so we would like to extract the text from the span. How can we do that? Well, if I go back here, I can do the following. For text in content, I'm going to be saying t, for example, is equal to text.find span.text. It's going to find me this span, and it's going to store it in this t. So if I say print t right now, let's see what we will be getting. Right? What we've done here is we got this division. Okay? Now content is having this whole division with everything inside it. Only this division. So if you expand it, it has this division which contains this, and this. Okay? We only have this box right now in the content variable. Now we are searching this content for an element that is called span. So I'm saying, hey, in that division that you have found, find me a span as well and extract its text. Now if I print this, as you can see, we got that is the best. So right now we got this sub review. If we go back here, we would like to get the review itself. Well, this review TN has multiple elements, as I said, and it contains multiple spans, right? So this don't is the best is actually one span. We have also another span that is right here. Take a look at the inspection window. You'll see that when I hover over this, it will say span. When I hover over this, the same as the sub-review. So how can we get all the spans that are inside the div? We need to say here find all. Now if I try to print this, we will get an error because we cannot say text right now anymore. We need to delete it, then we need to rerun it. And here we go. We got all the spans that are inside this div. Now if we inspect them, we should be able to localize in which element is the full review. So maybe we can print them out. So for subtext in t, print subtext. Okay, here we go. So this is the first element. This is not the full review. This is the second element. So it is actually here. So right now, if I say, hey, I need span 1.text, okay, and I comment those out, and we just print t, we'll see that we got the review. What happened here? We went to this div and we searched all the spans that are inside it because it has two spans, one of them for the summarization of the review, which is with index 0, and the other one is for the full review, which is in index 1. Here we go. We got it. Now, we have seen how we can interact with a certain element. How about we grab all of the reviews that we have on the website, or at least on this. Let's try to scrap all the reviews together. To do that, we need a division that contains all of those stuff. And as we have noticed when we were inspecting, we have this large division here. Where was it? Here. This large division contains all the reviews together. So if I click it, you'll see that there is this div class that is called reviews1BOD. That's good. Now let me copy the name of this. This one contains all the other reviews. As you can see here, all of those are part of this div right here. So that's good. It means that if we go back to our script and we add another line here, I'm going to call it again, content is equal to soup.find. What I would like to find now, I would like to find a division with the class name of the thing that I have just copied. Okay. Now I'm going to that large division which contains all the reviews under it. But if I want to get all the divs that have this name, I need to pass here find all instead of find, right? Because I have multiple divs that are with this name. So I need to get all of them. Then we will continue. We are going to iterate over each of them and extract the text. Okay, so let's see how will this go. I'm going to be removing this text. I'm going to go with you step by step. Let's try to print T. Okay, we are finding all the spans for every single element of those. If I execute this, here we go. Okay, now if I pass 1 here, because 0 is for the span of the sub-review and 1 is the span of the full review, as you can see, we got the span itself. Good. Now if I say .text here we go. We got all the text. Now let us enumerate them. So maybe we'll say here for I text in enumerate so that we can give a number for every element we are iterating. This is the way to do it. And maybe here print just I and T. Here we go. 0, 1, 2, all the way to 19. We have 20 reviews. And as you can see, we got all the reviews on that page. That's really good. How about we add them to a list? So I'm going to say here, maybe create an empty list. So I'm going to say all reviews is equal to an empty list. And then I would like to append them. So I'm going to say all reviews dot append T. I'm not going to be printing anything yet. Then here I'm going to say for review in all reviews print review. And as you can see, we got all of our reviews right now in that list. And we have scrapped all of them. Now you can take them, you can store them, you can apply some data analysis on those, maybe to determine if those are positive reviews or negative reviews. We can do tons of things now with those reviews. We can even plot them to illustrate them. We can compare them to a different page, for example. Maybe we can compare them to the reviews of a different trip and see which one is better. We can get how many stars each of those reviews has, using the same methods. That's really good. But let's say you would like to get all of the reviews. Now, as you can see here, we have multiple pages and we were able to get only the first page. How can we actually interact with those 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 13 pages? Well, Beautiful Soup can only extract information from web elements. It cannot really do any interaction. Now, the first thing you need to think about is if you press the second page, will I get a different URL? Maybe here I will be getting something like 3 or 4 or 5 that will indicate on which page I am. If so, maybe I can send different requests using the URL here and the request get. And maybe I can embed here all the indexes for all the pages. But if I press now on the second page, I'll see that the link did not change at all. So here a second page does not mean a second link. On some websites, that's true. If you go to the second page, maybe you'll get a different link. But here, it's not. So how can we exactly extract the rest of reviews? What I want to talk about right now is something called XPath. Now, XPath is very important when it comes to automation. Let's say that we have this web page, all right? And it contains multiple stuff. Let's say that it contains a button here. And maybe there is some sidebar right here that contains some search bar here. Okay, so a web page actually contains multiple elements, right? And the goal of automation is to be able to, let's say, click on a button, maybe. Maybe we need to fill a field. Maybe we need to choose an option, right? Let's say here we have multiple options, option 1, 2, 3. We need to be able to choose an option. It could be radio buttons like this. It could be a drop down like that where we have multiple entries. So, so this is what a web page contains usually, and we would like to be able to control all of those elements. Now, you can think that every element has its own address. Okay, so this button on the screen has an address, these radio buttons has addresses, etc. But how can you get this address? We can get this address either by what we call CSS selectors, which is nice, but I'm not going to be covering right now. I'm going to go to the simpler way, which is what we call XPath. Now, XPath is going to literally give you the path to any elements you have. So, what do I mean by that? Right now, let's talk about this search field here. As we can see, it is inside the main web page, then it is inside this sidebar. So the address is something like the web page itself. This is overly simplifying it, by the way. Then we have here this sidebar, right? And finally, we will reach our search bar. This is my search bar. So I need to go through this chain to reach my final destination being the search bar. And XPath is exactly that. It is going to tell you that if you go to the web page, then you go to the sidebar, then you go to the search field, you will find a value that you can modify. So we will be writing to this value, which is under this address. This is how XPath works, and you can think the same way about all of those elements. Now let's see how we can extract XPath. Let's say that I have this Google web page, and what I would like to do is to automate it. What do I mean by that? I want to be able to write anything in this box. Well, we've learned about by Auto GUI, and we can do that by using by Auto GUI. But Selenium is way more powerful, especially that web pages can get more complicated. So let's see how we can get the XPath. If you right-click anywhere on the web page and click on Inspect, here we go. Now, I want you to click on this icon, which is select an element in the page to inspect it. Click on it, and as you can see, there is multiple elements that we can inspect. Take a look here. We have this image of Google. We have a search bar. It's a separate element. We have this icon, We have the Google search. We have the Gmail button. We have the sign in button. Everything is a separate element. And we can get the XPath of any of them. Let's say that I would like to take the XPath of this input. I would click on it. And as you can see, there is a section that is selected. Take a look again. If I click here again, click on this Google, you'll see that a different section of the code is selected. Now what we are seeing here anyway is the HTML/CSS code. So this is how the page is formed. I mean, if you write the same code and compile it again, you would get the same page. So this is HTML/CSS code for this web page. Okay, so let us choose the search box. And we have selected it. Now right-click and go to copy and just say copy XPath. Now we have the XPath. Let's go back to our code. Create a new cell by pressing B and just paste it here. Take a look. This is the address to reach that final destination, which is the input. We have the HTML page, we have the body of the HTML page, and then we have multiple divisions. Divisions are areas that we can use in HTML to separate our page as we like. We have a form, we have different divs, all the way to get to the input. Now, how can we utilize this actually? What we said is we would like to interact with those elements. But before we do that, let us organize our code really quickly. So I'm going to create here a function and I'm going to call it parse HTML. And maybe I will just put all of those inside. Okay. Now I can exclude this actually, put it outside because this one is the one that will get the response. And here I'm going to be passing response and that's it. Let me take this function. Let me put it on top here. Let me put those libraries here. Let me delete those lines. This is called refactoring actually, by organizing your code after you have figured out your idea. Let's create here a function that is called print all reviews maybe. And well, let's get all of these reviews. It will just print them out for me. Now I have a URL. That's really good. I'm going to be getting this, putting it here. And now we can call our functions. I'm going to say here parse HTML response. And well, we just need to say here print all reviews. Let's execute this and see. We forgot the column here and here. And we got the same output. All right. Now the next step is that we need to interact with those elements. And the way to interact with those elements is by using the library Selenium. Now, in the previous sections and tutorials, I have already talked about Selenium and WebDriver and how we can install it. If you don't know about that, you can go and check it out in the web form automation section. So Selenium is used to interact with web elements like pressing keys, filling input text fields, clicking on radio buttons, etc. The goal is that if we are in page 1, I would like to keep clicking on different pages till I reach the end. And we will be doing that by pressing this button. So first, let us prepare Selenium. To prepare Selenium, we need to import a couple of stuff. We have already talked about them, which are the by keyword and the WebDriver. I'm just going to paste them here and rerun this. Next, we need to launch our WebDriver. So to do that, I'm going to go here. I'm going to say driver is equal to webdriver.chrome. And then you need to specify the directory of your WebDriver. In my case, it is this directory here. And if you don't remember what was WebDriver, well, if you just type Chrome driver, you can go here and you can go to downloads and you can choose the version that is corresponding to your Chrome here. In my case, my Chrome is compatible with this 108, so I'm going to be clicking on it. Get the Windows one because I have Windows. If you have Mac, you can download the Mac one. And then you will just put it in any directory and pass the directory right here. Okay, by that you will be able to run this because WebDriver, as you remember, will open a Chrome window that is specialized for web automation. Okay, so next step, I'm going to close those. Next step here is to get the XPath of this element here. The easiest way was to work with Selenium is by copying XPath for different buttons. So if I am to click on inspect here, click on get element, and then click on the button here, it will highlight this section. All I need to do is right click, copy XPath. Now, we will see if this technique will work or not, but we might face some issue. Let's see them together. Create a variable called XPath and just paste that here. This needs to be in a single quotation, not a double quotation. Okay. Now, in order to click on that, we used something that was called find element by XPath. So we are going to say driver.find underscore element by .xpath XPath. Okay. So driver already got the whole web page. And it is stored here right now, similar to Beautiful Soup. Now we are going to find an element inside that web page that we have stored in driver, and we will be finding it by XPath, right? So here there's two formats. There is this regular format and the XPath format. And this is the XPath format for that certain button. If I just say .click, I should be able, supposedly, to click on that element, okay? Now, let's see if this will work or not. I'm going to be commenting out those for now, the Beautiful Soup one, because we are not going to be working on that section yet. We just want to implement the interaction. So a new window is opened. We actually forgot one thing, which is to go to that certain website. After that, we just need to say driver.get URL, and this is my URL. Okay, we are not really specifying any target website. So let's try again. Open a new window, go there, and we got an error. It says no such element exists, no such element exception. Maybe because we need to wait a little bit. Remember that in order to use WebDriver, we need to wait for all the elements to be on the web page, then we can interact with them. This would be your first thought, right? Let's see if this will work. So if I say here time.sleep for 5 seconds, and let's import time. So we are waiting for those elements to be showing up on the page. Not sleep, just time. Now, if I run this one more time, let's see what we will get. Wait 5 seconds. Nothing happens. No such element exception. Now we will notice two things. We have this cookie pop-up on our website. Usually, and you will see this a lot actually, if you start working with web scraping, you need to click on OK for the cookies in order to proceed with other interactions. So sometimes this will prevent your interactions. Let's try and click on this cookie and see if this will resolve our issue. So to do that, I'm going to be inspecting this OK button. So click on select element, get this OK button. This is it, it's highlighted. Right click, copy, XPath. And here, let's create a function, just a quick one. I'm going to say accept cookie so that we can organize our code a little bit. The XPath for that is this one. I've copied it. Let's time sleep a little bit. Let's find that. So driver.find underscore element by dot XPath, and then we have XPath like that. Then we will say click. So go to that element, find it, and click it in order to accept the cookies. Let's sleep a little bit, so that we will be waiting maybe for 1 second. And that's it. So before we try to click on the next page, I'm going to say accept cookies. Okay? We are not sure if this will help or not, but we are going through the process step by step, because you will face all of those issues when you are working with web scraping for sure. Run it. And the cookie is already clicked. That's really good. But we are still unable to click on the next button. So we already removed one of the stuff that were preventing us from clicking on that next button. So now we have clicked on the button and we got a new set of reviews. How can we pass those to Beautiful Soup in order to extract those reviews again? If you remember, the way we did this is by getting response request by using requests by getting URL, and then we were passing this response to Beautiful Soup and we were parsing it. And we were finding elements from the parsed version. But right now, if we try to do the same thing again, we will be refreshing this and getting the content from a refreshed page, and we will be going back to page 1. So we cannot really do the same thing. We need a way that after we click, Selenium is going to grab all the information. It is the one who clicked, right? It should be able to grab all the information from the page generated after the click, and then we can pass it back. To do that, there is a very, very handy function that is called page source. So if I just say here, response is equal to driver.page underscore source. This one is going to return the HTML content from after we have clicked on the second page, meaning that it will get the new reviews. Without having to type the website again, it is very useful whenever we are doing navigation. So we are navigating to different pages, but maybe the URL is not changing. Then Selenium can just grab whatever it's seeing and send it to us back as a parsed HTML. Now, after we get this response, we are going to pass it to our parse HTML. So I'm going to say here parse HTML and then just pass response. Okay, let's see the flow one more time. So we have URL, we are getting the response, we are activating the list to store all the responses, we are parsing that response, and I'm not going to be printing right now, it's fine. Then we will continue. We will open the page. We will click on the next button, and then we will be calling this parse HTML again in order to add the new reviews that we have found. Okay, so let me run this and see if we will get new reviews. And we open the page, clicked OK, jump to the next page. We got an attribute error here. It is saying that we don't have attribute text because the second response is not actually coming from Beautiful Soup. We cannot do that. So maybe we should get rid of getting responses from requests altogether, because we have already tested this and in the program flow it does not really fit. So we want the responses always returned by Selenium. So I'm going to remove this. We will be calling the URL. We will accept the cookies. We are going to call response here. We will call parse HTML for the first page. Then we will be running the second page, get the response, and then parse the HTML. This code is not refactored yet, so don't worry. We are just trying to get it to work first. So we removed the text from here. Now let's try to rerun it. See if we will have any other issues. First page. Did we get all pages? Yes, we are at the second page. Okay, so let's print the list. I'm gonna say here, I'm gonna put this in a different cell, print all reviews, and here we go. We have all the reviews. Let's see how many we have. Now let's create a function here that will return how many reviews we have. So count reviews. It's just a very simple function here, and we will say return len of all reviews list. Okay, now let me execute this one more time. So right now, let me just say, what was the function name? Count reviews. We did not execute. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna copy this, put it here. All reviews is not defined because it is not really well spelled. The reason I put the definition here because I don't want to execute this again and open the browser. We will do that in the next iteration. And here we go. We have now 30 reviews. Okay, that's really good. So we are collecting more and more reviews. Now we need a way to iterate over all of those pages together and actually get the reviews. Let's see how we can do that. Okay, so let us organize this and put them in a function. I'm going to call this function click next review page button. Writing descriptive names like that is very, very important for the code readability. So I'm going to be copying these, the response here, cut it, put it here, add the indentation block, and here we will be returning the response. Nothing special. I will take this XPath, just put it here. I'm going to take this sleep and add it here. So after we click, we wait a little bit. Now I'm going to call this function. So I'm going to come here and just say something like this. Let me copy this. We are accepting the cookie. We are getting the response from the first page. We are parsing it. We are clicking again. We are parsing it. Do you think that we can click again? Sometimes we can click on the second page, but we would have issues with the third page. This happens more frequently than you think. So I'm going to also add this to the definitions here. Okay, we have organized our code a little bit. It's still not the best. We can delete those as well. And remove this. Okay, now let me rerun. Clicked and clicked. Not sure here that we have any issues. Now if we check down here, we will see that we got back to page 1. Well, that is a problem. Why did we jump to page 2 and then back to page 1? Let us inspect this. Take a look here. Right now, we have this bubble, which will take us to page 2. If I click on page 2, I have 2 bubbles now with the same span name. This is the guess. Let's inspect. Go back and see those 2 bubbles. This is the first one. It is called navigation 1x2. And let's see the second one. It's called the same thing, 1x2. So we need a way to handle what happens after we click on the second page. This is actually not that hard to do. So if I go back here, remember how in Beautiful Soup we have find all elements? We can do the same thing when we are using XPath scripting. So instead of button here, I could say no matter what is the type, just return to me the class that is called this, and this will return a list to me, okay? Now, since this will return a list, it will return 2 elements whenever there is 2 elements. So if we are on page 1, it will return a list that contains only this bubble right here, this button right here. Now, if I click on next, that line is going to return to me 2 buttons because they have the same class name. And all we needed to do is to get rid of whatever name we have and just put this asterisk, and then we can just now specify which element we would like to click. So here maybe we can specify element, okay? And here we can say element. So either we click on element 0 or 1, because as I said, this will return now a list. And we cannot click a list, we can click an element inside the list, right? This is just basic Python. So right now, on the first click, I would like to pass 0. And on the second click, I would like to pass 1. Meaning that at page 1, I would like to click on this one. This will be element 0 actually. However, whenever we are in page 2, now this element will be index 0 and this will be index 1. This is why we are passing 0 first and then 1. Now let's see if this will help us jump to page 3. Run. Cookies. We have a type error. Okay, yes. The reason is we need to say here find elements. So there is an S as well. Okay, so there's a contradiction. Whenever we want to return a list, this should be S, and then we need to add this to the XPath scripting. So let's try again. Cookies, page 2. Hopefully this is page 3. Let's take a look. And we are at page 3. That's really, really good. Now we can iterate over all the pages. All we need to say is for I in range from 0 to, let's say we have 13 pages. So to 12. We already navigated the first page here. Then we need to jump 12 more pages. So maybe here until 11. Print grabbing page I plus 1 plus 2, because here we are grabbing, let's say, page 1. We can say that here. This is grabbing page 1. And let's do this. We will put it in a try except here. So try to do this. Except print no more pages. Okay. And we can say here count reviews. So I'm going to say count reviews. I'm going to print it so that we can see how many reviews we have. All right, let's see what we have. If I run this. Okay, now let me run this. Second page, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I think here we need this to be at till 12, but that's fine. But as you can see now, we grabbed all the reviews and we got a total of 120. I guess we have 130 here because this should be more than that. And we're done. We have got all the pages. Now we can add break here so that we can break out of the loop if the page does not exist. And maybe here we can say 15. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. And we broke out of the loop right here, and that's really good. We can specify a high number here if we have expectations of how many reviews at maximum we would get, or we could put this in a while one loop and it will break whenever it's done. And by that we have scrapped all the reviews from the website and we have learned tons of information just with that simple project. So we did accept the cookie and this did not really help us interact with the button. In such scenarios, we are going to be debugging this step by step. This is the path, right? This is the XPath. And somehow it's not working. And this XPath is actually the way that we would be jumping from the top of the document all the way to that button right here. So it is the hierarchy that we should be jumping in. We need to jump to this division, then this subdivision, etc. all the way to get to that button. Okay? Let's try to debug this. First, let us try to see if we can find the element without clicking, okay? So I'm going to decrease this sleep maybe to 1 second here and see if I am able to find this whole path. I'm going to be shortening this path to get to the point where I will be able to find an element. Then we will be inspecting to see why it's not clicking. So if I run this, we will open the browser, etc. Click on the cookie, and we got an error. Okay, so let me reduce it a little bit. If I remove this button with the slash, run again. And here we go again. Click on the cookie. Still, we are getting no such element. Let's reduce it further. Again, click on the cookie. Still nothing. We are not finding all of that path. Okay, let's remove the 13 here. Again, nothing. Okay, let's remove this div. And still nothing. Let me remove this div as well. And we got it. So this path actually exists. But this path, starting from this path, it does not exist. So let's go to this path that exists. Okay, I'm going to copy it. Go back here and try to inspect it. Try to debug this. So I'm going to go to inspect. I'm going to click Ctrl F to start searching, and I want to be searching here for a selector or XPath. There is 2 search bars. Don't click on the below one, click on the upper one. And here we go. This one. Okay, so this is the last element that we are seeing, then we are losing sight. If I expand it, we will see that we are still getting divs and etc. Okay, so there is nothing unusual here. Let's go back here and copy the first element that is making us lose sight. Okay, that is making this path not findable. So let me search for that, enter, here we go. If I collapse everything, and that's it. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a div, and usually inside the div, we should be finding multiple divs. But we are interrupting this by having a span. So this is a really not well written website actually. We have a div and we have a span floating that is preventing us from accessing the rest of the divs. That is the problem. Okay, but how can we overcome it? How can I access the rest of the divs if this one is standing in the way? Well, we are going to get the elements all the way here. Then we will be using different methods to get to the rest of the elements. I'm going to say, okay, no problem here. I'm going to remove this div 13. And I will say it's enough for me if I get this path until this point. Okay, so here I'm going to be writing a variable. I'm going to call it partial path, maybe. And I'm going to be storing it. Okay, this one is working. As you remember, we have executed this and we did not get path was not found. Okay, what's next? Well, I would like to find the rest of the divs in a different way. I'm going to be still using XPath, but I'm going to be using XPath scripting in order to get to the other divs. How would we do that? Well, I'm going to be saying here partial path again is equal to partial path, the one right here. I'm trying to access now dot find, just as usual, element, and by dot XPath, it's capital, okay. Then I'm going to be using scripting to find that div. Open a quotation, double slash, then say div, open a bracket like this, say contains, then open a parenthesis, add class. Now we need to find the first class here, okay? So we got a discontinuation at this point. Let me copy the path again so that we can know the whole path that we want to track. So again, copy XPath, and I'm just gonna use it here as a comment just to see what we are looking at. Okay, so we reached this point where we started losing track. Okay, let me get this whole thing and search for it here. We found it. Now this is the button. If we go up, we will see that it is in this class. All right, so this is the class that we want to extract. So let me show you again. This is the span that is preventing us from getting to the divs. The button is inside this div, which is called pagination 2ZNR. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to say here, find me this pagination that I'm looking for. Okay, so this is a type of XPath type of scripting. And basically what you are doing is you are saying, get me the basic path and let's search inside it for a div of a class that is called pagination 2ZNR. Okay, so this should get me all the elements that are inside here. And by that we have bypassed this span issue. Okay, so let's see if this will give us any issues before we continue further. Execute. Click on the cookie. We got a name error. Partial path is not defined. Okay, sorry, here it should be an L. There should be an L. Now let me execute again. Click on the cookie again. And here goes. We got no issues. We got no exceptions. So this path was found and we have bypassed the span issue. Okay, that's really great. Now let's get to the button. Where is the button? Here it is. In which div is it? It's in this division here, right? This is the pagination that we have found. Now we will continue and search for this one. Once we find it, we will get to the button directly, right? Because it's directly under this pagination container 3kky. So let me copy the name of the class and do just the same thing. This is the name that we would like to find. I'm going to copy this whole thing again, paste it here, and only change the class. So inside this class, I would like to find this another class. Again, let's see if this will give us any issues. Run. Again, we got no exceptions. It means that we have found this path as well. That's really great. We are almost done. Now, we got to the button. Now, let's navigate to the name of the button, right? So right here, this is the class name of the button. And it's called this. Let me copy it. Maybe I need to cancel this. Yeah. Let me copy the name of the button class and do the same search. So right here, let me just put it like that. Copy the same thing and put this as a class, but there is a small variation actually. This is not a div anymore, it's a button, right? If you take a look, you'll see that here we were searching for a div class, div and class, but here we are searching for a button and a certain class. This is why we have changed this to a button. Now, let's try to click it. Hopefully we have found it, right? Run. And something happened. Did we actually click? Yes, we are now at page 2. That's really great. So what we have done is we were able to crack all the problems that we were facing to get to this button in order to click it. See all of those challenges? You are going to face tons of them with web scraping, and you need to learn how to navigate your way out of it. This is why I started with this example, because it contains a lot of challenges that will help you do the easier web scraping websites. So now that we have clicked on here, how can we get the new page reviews? We need to use Beautiful Soup, but let's see how we can use it here along with Selenium.